okay to show, empathy to other people and to be vulnerable. I feel like I'm starting to really make my mark and changing the culture with becoming this culture of recognition. And then at the same time, I really started to work hard on just developing people and developing talent. And I put a lot of emphasis around that.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Zach Ewell, content producer here at Leader's Edge. In this episode, Associate Editor Chris Hann interviews Dottie Chalmers Cutter, Chief Operating Officer at Chalmers Insurance Group. During this conversation, Chalmers shares her story of becoming the fourth generation to run her family's insurance business. She also discusses the importance of company culture and hard work. Give it a listen.
Okay, we are here today with Dottie Chalmers Cutter, Chief Operating Officer and the fourth generation owner of her family business in Bridgeton, Maine. Thank you, Dottie, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You're a fourth generation owner, and I wanted to ask if you feel, do you feel any added pressure to keep this successful business successful as a fourth generation owner?
That's a great question. Absolutely. I always say, there's two types of people. Either you're born into insurance or you fall into insurance. And so I definitely was born into it.
Yeah.
Being a multi-generational family business. My dad and my uncle, who are the third generation, were absolutely adored, revered, and well known in not just the insurance industry, but in our local community as well. And so, of course, I felt pressure when we perpetuated and I officially became the owner. But my dad was always, and he's still to this day, like my biggest mentor. And so he was always just so proud and was like, put your own stamp on this and make it your own. And that was advice he had given me. And so I just kind of did that. I just started rolling up my sleeves and trying different things out and trying to change processes and culture. And I think I finally kind of hit my groove, and I've earned the respect of our workforce from really, I think, rolling up my sleeves and starting kind of from the bottom. And when you're an owner's, a DOB, as I call it, daughter of boss, you have a bullseye on your back. So
Yeah.
For me, it was really important to start from the ground up. And I credit my dad for doing that with me. And he's like, you really just need to learn insurance. And so I started as an account manager and got a book of business and serviced a book of business for many years in personal lines, and really won over like the hearts of my coworkers because they saw me sitting alongside them every day. And so that really, I think, helped me earn the respect from those early years, starting in that way.
Now, let me ask you about the chronology of that transition. You came to the company, I believe, in 2005.
Yes. So
And
I graduated Bowdoin College, small liberal arts school, and went and did a year abroad in New Zealand because I had studied there in college for a semester, and I liked it so much that when all my friends were getting real jobs, I decided to get a 1-year working visa and go live my best life in New Zealand. And so I did that.
that's a good
And
plan.
when I came back broke, my dad was very willing to hire me and started having me work. And I was familiar with the agency because I would work there on summer breaks from college. And in order to save up some money for my trip to New Zealand, I started to work for the agency right after I graduated from Bowdoin for probably about 6 months to earn some money, and started kind of doing processing work and commercial lines at that point in time. But so then I lived my best life in New Zealand, came back, and that's when my dad, happily said, let's put you in and he picked a smaller office at the time, not even our big flagship in Bridgeton, Maine. He moved me to a small office in the middle of nowhere, Maine, and it was like sink or swim, very much a mom and pop agency. And I had to just really roll up my sleeves and be like, what am I doing? And I had a great mentor there, and just really became hooked and really realized like, wow, this is a great career and I could really see myself enjoying this work.
And you took over as owner when?
I took over in 2018 is when we
Okay.
perpetuated. Um, but I had, many years in, so when I think it was in 2013 when my cousin, who's my business partner,
Hmm.
Jim Chalmers, and then we have another minority partner, Steve Cody, and we assumed kind of our like leadership promotions in 2013, where we were actively running the business. And my dad and my uncle in that at that time, we called it they elevated to the balcony. So they were on the balcony looking down and we were running the day-to-day operations, but they were there, if we needed them. So that's really kind of was a big defining moment, I would say. That's also when they gave Steve Cody, my partner, the presidency title, which was a big deal because it was the first time in our history where a non-Chalmers family member assumed the presidency title. So that was a very big deal. And Steve's a good 10 plus years older than myself and my cousin. So at that time, we were having babies and we're really in the weeds of like parenting. And Steve was that much older. So he was like a perfect steward to take on that role and to guide us and help us kind of get ready, for kind of where we are today. So he still maintains that presidency title.
Uh-huh.
And I'm Chief Operating Officer and Jim is Chief Sales Officer
Okay.
currently. Mhm.
Um, Tell me about when you came in. You mentioned you alluded earlier to some changes, just either in approach or you tell me what changes do you think, what were the most significant changes do you think you brought to the leadership of the company?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it kind of starts probably I would say 5 or 6 years ago when I took a 360 assessment with a leadership coach. And that was a very defining moment for me because I was already, actively running the agency or the daily operations, but I, you think you're doing things a certain way. It's awful humbling when you have a 360 evaluation done and all of a sudden your peers, your direct reports, your bosses are providing feedback. And so I got this report back and it was very humbling for me because I realized like right then and there I had some things I needed to do to change in my leadership. And so I really kind of leaned into that. I rolled up my sleeves after I got over the initial shock and like tears because it's hard to get feedback on yourself, especially when you see yourself a certain way and you realize your peers are seeing you in a different way.
Hmm.
And so I remember going to my dad, literally teary-eyed. I gave him the assessment, the report, and he read it, and you know, he was in that moment just like don't ever let when you're looking at the reflection of yourself in the mirror, don't ever let that change because you are who you are. And this is, you will use this feedback and you will lean into it. And I know that about you and who you are, but don't ever really let the reflection in the mirror change because you're pretty perfect to me. Now it's easy when a dad says that to his daughter, but I took that and I also took the advice of some of my leadership coach and I really just tried to change a couple of things. And so for me, it was I had to practice a lot more empathy and recognition in the workplace. My coworkers didn't feel like they were being recognized enough. And
Okay.
although I'm a very empathetic person, it wasn't coming across in my daily interactions with them. So I decided to do a couple things where so my leadership coach's advice was basically don't try and change everything about yourself overnight. You can't do that, but take one or two things, small things, and make a difference. So for me, I just started recognizing people all the time. And so I started small with birthday cards and work anniversary cards, which I still do to this day. I send everyone, we have 103 coworkers. I send them a birthday card and a work anniversary card every year. I mail it to their house, handwritten note, so they get it in advance. And I've been doing that for many years, and they love that, and they so appreciate that. And I took it farther. So I still do that to this day, but now like I will send handwritten notes for any reason, like I'll get for things that my management team feeds to me. I will recognize, always send a handwritten note because I'm such a believer and I think it's a lost art. I mail it to their house because that's best practice. And so I started to change the culture, and I started to create this culture of recognition where what if we all started to do what Dottie's doing? And what if we all start to recognize everybody more meaningfully? And we integrated that in many ways throughout our whole organization, where we, in a huddle that we would have between offices, we always build into our agenda. We call them crush its, and it's crush it moments. And it's an opportunity for peers to crush one another. It's also an opportunity for a manager to crush a direct report, but we always build in crush it.
Crush being a good thing.
Crush it is a good thing. I mean, and it would say like, I'm going to crush you for, and then you have to get sort of specific for the impact you made by you staying late and servicing this client. You brought in a new account, but you also, helped this client out with the day before at closing. So I'm crushing you for your commitment to exceptional client service, which is a core value of the company. So we really tell them to be specific with the impact, so that it's meaningful. So I feel like I'm starting to really make my mark and changing the culture with becoming this culture of recognition. And then at the same time, I really started to work hard on just developing people and developing talent. And I put a lot of emphasis around that. And I'm actually a trained leadership coach. And so I put on a 6-month leadership program for emerging leaders within the company. And it's a 6-month long program. And I teach them the modules that were taught to me from working with years of an executive coach. And so now I'm able to um, to lead that program and help develop the rising stars within the company. And that's pretty cool. So I think just the ability to recognize people and then the ability to develop and promote and is huge. So I think those are some of the aspects that I've been able to bring and help change the company, for the better.
That what your colleagues perceived as a lack of empathy on your part, was that the biggest surprise to you in that 360 assessment?
It was because I had taken a caliper test when I just started at the agency. My dad did caliper testing on everybody, and I took it. And I know on that report, I was 99 percentile for empathy. So I knew I was very empathetic, but there was some kind of a disconnect
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
it wasn't coming out. So I'm a very empathetic person, but yet my coworkers weren't seeing that. So that was very surprising to me. And so I basically not just started recognizing people, but I also just started practicing what I call humble inquiry and curious listening. So
Okay.
I was just asking I was doing less talking and more asking of my staff. So I was trying to basically get to know them at a deeper level, a more personal level. And I think my ability to connect with people is an advantage that I have, but by asking and leading with curiosity, I found that I was able to get them to open up to me, and I was able to build meaningful connection. And so that was all really because of that 360 assessment that I took those 5 years ago. So I think that, and then being, vulnerable. I think people saw me in a certain way. And I also had to realize, okay, Dottie, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to show emotion. I know I'm an empathetic person, but maybe in the workplace, I was a little bit more, work professional. And so I realized like it's okay to show, empathy to other people and to be vulnerable and at my own expense, to make myself like, hey, look, this is where I missed the mark, or this is something that I did wrong. And being able to admit that publicly, I think has served me well, and has shown people in my organization that it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes, and being vulnerable about it, being able to lean into that, I think has really kind of helped me. show like I am an empathetic person. I am vulnerable. I'm okay to put myself out there at my own expense. And I think that makes for, I think that makes for the best leaders, those that are able
Hmm.
to kind of
Hmm.
lean into that and do that.
What was when you took over? You had been with the company for quite a while
Hmm.
before you took over
Yep.
at
Yep.
the lead as the leader, a leader. Um, what was the biggest surprise in making that transition to the leadership position?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, my dad for like a decade called me the junior management team, myself and my cousin. We were literally, it was so embarrassing because he would still call us the junior management team. And we were in the management meetings and we were just junior because we were the young ones. Um, and I remember because finally it was like we were clearly leading the agency. By 2013, we were leading it. And I was like, Dad, can you drop the junior now? Because we're not junior anymore. We're really senior. I think we're leading the company. Um, but yeah, I think, the early years was just understanding the business, understanding insurance, and then being able to like speak up and use my voice. And I was somebody that actually was really shy as a child. And even through college, I wasn't the first to speak up in class. Like I would be the one that had to really be poked to speak up, and if class participation was part of a grade, then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to speak up. And so I was shy, and it was something I had to overcome. And I started to kind of those early years, I think my dad was smart. He knew that was something a challenge I had to overcome. So he would call on me in managers meetings. He would purposely ask me to be prepared. I'm going to call on you. You're going to speak about this, or we might bring in a our banking partner for an annual State of the Union meeting with them, and he would always make me present to them. He'd make me to present to when carrier partners and marketing reps would come into the agency. He would always be like, Dottie, tell them what it's like in personal lines. Tell them what their rates, how their rates are. And then he would just watch back and like watch me. And afterwards, or at the end of the meeting, he would kind of give me feedback, and as a coach would, and tell me like, you know, how I did. And that meant a lot because I was very much achievement motivated in those days, and I was craving that type of feedback. So I think in those early years, it was about me being comfortable using my voice, being comfortable speaking up in a meeting and in a crowd, and knowing and trusting that I actually know what I'm talking about. So I would say those were obstacles, things I had to overcome in the first probably 10
Yeah,
years at the
yeah.
agency.
What was it like working with your father?
It was pretty special, and he's the most amazing person in my life, and my next to my husband, I have to say I can't slight him, but my dad is really my mentor, and he is just such a cheerleader of people, and obviously his kids no different, but he's has such high integrity, and that would be a word I think anybody would use when you think of Bill Chalmers. They would say, "What a man of integrity, of character, of humility, not one to be showy or boastful, but just somebody that when he spoke, you listened." And he had this gift of being able to have a direct conversation, but he would do it in a way that people were like, I don't know if I want to like be his best friend, or did he just also give me some course correction? I don't know. Like I love him. He had that gift about him, and is like a masterful storyteller. So those early years were special because my office was near his, and he would call me in, or he would come into my office and just sit down, and or pull me into different meetings, and I was able to really to just learn through observation and seeing how he did things. And then he also knew, because he was my dad, and worried about maybe nepotism or whatnot. He had a then a COO who he tasked with mentoring me, and she played a very important role in my career as well, and helping teach me and prepare me for the position I'm in as well. But No, my dad is somebody that I still, it's great because he's retired, but he's alive, he's around, he's available, and he so loves to talk about the agency and he's so proud. And I think that's something that he just like he's just so proud and happy to see the agency continue and to see myself and my cousin carrying on, and his good work. And he would be the first to say, like, and you're doing a better job than I ever did. That would be the next thing out of his mouth is that you really made this something even more than I ever did. And
Hmm.
and I think the emphasis on the culture piece was something that I felt proud of, that I was able to really put my own stamp on. And that has earned us best places to work in insurance. 2 years. We apply every other year, but our overall employee engagement score is a 97%.
Let me ask you about culture because
Sure.
so many businesses and executives and CEOs tout their culture, and obviously it means different things to different people in different companies. How would you describe the culture at Cutter?
Yeah. So I would call it, we have this culture of two things, culture of I call it coaching leadership, where we want to see the best in others as a coach would. So it's very much this mentality as you're a manager as a coach versus manager as a boss.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's been a core kind of ideology for us that we've embraced. And everybody in the company knows that we're going to coach you up. And there is a time where sometimes, like, if we can't coach, we have to maybe a person, maybe it's just not a culture fit. Now we might have to turn to the management, put the management hat on and manage out a problem. But but really our emphasis is on we're going to coach you up and we're going to develop you. So creating this culture of coaching leadership where we're going to see the best in others, where we are going to express appreciation for others. We're going to promote development. We're going to set clear goals. We're going to hold people accountable. That's all part of a coaching leadership culture. So that would be one. And then the that I would say that recognition piece is critical. And then having core values that everybody in the company absolutely embraces, understands, knows, believes, and champions. And if you have that, it's magic. It really is. If you can get everybody on the bus or on the boat, as we say, because we we have an acronym called SHIP, SHIP, that stands for our core values of exceptional client service would be the S. The H is honesty with everyone. The I is involvement in our community. And then the P stands for passionate professionals. So we call it SHIP. And it's a nod to my dad, who we call the captain because you would think he has, his captain's license officially, but he just happens to love to wear a captain's hat, and he's captain of a pontoon boat in beautiful Highland Lake, Bridgeton, Maine. But so it was kind of a nod to him at the time when we created this acronym of SHIP. But we were able to really bring it to life, and everybody in the company believes in it, knows it, champions it. It's on every agenda. It's on the walls in every office. It's in everyone's desk. They have a frame with the values. So when you have that, it's that's where I think we get that 97% overall engagement, because everybody believes, everybody's on the boat, everybody's rowing in the same direction, and it's pretty special to see it come to life.
Tell me about the founding of the company. This would have been your great grandfather, I guess.
My great grandfather, yes. So we were founded in 1857.
Wow.
So we are fourth generation. Um, and yeah, it was, we actually have book iterations of books of the history because it is that in depth. But yeah, basically it was through marriage, through my dad's mother. Her father was his last name was Braithwaite, and he partnered with a local agent in town, and it was like the Braithwaite agency. And then he let in my grandfather. Last name of Chalmers, and so it became the Braithwaite Chalmers Agency, and then dropped the Braithwaite, and it was just became Chalmers Agency. So, yeah, so it really goes back from great great grandfather, my grandfather, my father, and my uncle, and myself and my cousin Jim. And we have other siblings, but not involved in the agency
Hmm.
side. My dad and my uncle do have, we call it a sister company. That is a TPA, a third party claims administrator company. And my sister and my cousin's younger brother actually run that arm, but it's a different business entity. So when I say my sister company, it really is my sister company. My sister is the president and CEO of that company. But it's so we're really, we do have a lot of family under the umbrella. But in terms of the Chalmers Insurance, the PNC, the agency, it's just myself and my cousin Jim. So we are the fourth generation, and the goal is to get it to the fifth generation, and they are interested. So that would be my daughter. I have three kids. My oldest is 14, and she has known ever since kindergarten that she wants to be a Chalmers insurance agent like my mom. And that's something
Wow.
she would say on the first day of school every year when they hold up the little placard that says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she says, I want to be a Chalmers insurance agent like my mom. Now she's a freshman in high school. She still holds that sign up on the first day of school, but now she's smartened up and she says, I don't want to be a Chalmers insurance agent. She goes, I want to be the Chalmers agent CEO. I want to be the boss. So she's just smartening up now, and she doesn't want to be the agent now. She's like, I really just I want your job, mom. I want to be the boss of Chalmers
Wow.
agency. And so that's going strong. She's 14 now. And then I have twins, boy girl twins that are 11. And my son says he wants to be the COO. And then his twin sister though says no, I want to be a beauty spa owner one day. So she's not
Okay.
she's not interested. But then my 14-year-old says, and I'll insure you. You can be a beauty spa owner and I'll insure you. So it's pretty cute to hear the dialogue. It's
You
already
must
brewing.
you must bring home some good stories.
I bring them a lot of stories, and they hear an awful lot. And I actually try and do that purposefully because I want to see how they're starting to problem solve real world things. So I did it the other day. We were having like a hot tub as a family and making small talk, and I said, I have a problem of the day and I want your advice. And I walked them through a scenario that really happened to me that day. And I said, how would you handle it? I wouldn't tell them any names. I said, but this is the situation. This is what happened. And I want to know how would you figure it out? How would you solve it? And it's so interesting to see the wheels turning in their
Yeah,
brain
yeah,
already. And I'm doing that intentionally because I want to help develop that and let them know that this is what it's like to run a business as a business owner. These are things you will face and
right,
challenges, and how are you
right.
going to overcome that? So trying to start them at a really young age.
It's all about problem solving, right?
It is.
When you were young, was it expected that you would go into the business? Did you want to go into the business? Did you aspire to it like your 14-year-old daughter does now?
No, I did not. This is funny though. So I thought I wanted to be a doctor,
Okay.
specifically a pediatrician. And my dad, though, would always whisper insurance in my ear as a kid.
Literally whisper.
Literally whisper insurance in my ear, and only to me. Only he had three kids. I was the middle child, and he would only whisper it in my ear because he knew out of his three children, I was the one most similar to him. And I think he knew I would be the one that just had the instincts or had it in me to take over the agency. So he wouldn't whisper to my brother and my younger sister's ear. He'd whisper it in my ear, and I would just be like a little bee in your ear. I'd kind of like wad it away. And like, no, no, Dad. But subliminally, I think it really got through, and it was always something in the back of my mind that I knew could be an avenue for me to explore. So when I went to Bowdoin as a pre-med student, I realized pretty quickly after like barely passing biology 101 that this was going to be a problem. And I was like, I don't know, if I can't barely pass biology, how am I ever going to get through organic chemistry? And so I decided to pivot, and I went towards psychology actually, and got my degree in psychology. And you know what? I use that every day. I'm grateful. I use psychology, and it's helped me understand people. And that is really the business that I'm in, is the people business. Whether you're managing your workforce or client interactions, like, it's all about people. So I did a pivot and realized that, okay, maybe now I think I got to give insurance a thought, and that's when my dad was obviously very willing to hire me. So
That was Associate Editor Chris Hann interviewing Dottie Chalmers Cutter. I hope you enjoyed it. For more episodes of our Personal Lines podcast series, go to leadersedge.com or find our podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.